Ciao tutti! I am so excited for you to join me on this journey of gratitude stories, where I gather stories of others who have had gratitude expressed face to face, how it's made a difference in their life. You can make a difference every single day expressing gratitude. Join me on this journey. Don't wait to express gratitude today.
Ciao a tutti, it's me, kpspeaks, and I am beyond excited this morning. I have Rachel Nielson, who is known for her podcast 3 in 30. I was introduced to Rachel through a very close friend of mine, and when I started listening to her podcast, I was extremely inspired, uplifted, and my days started getting better as a mom with 3 littles in my house. She actually hosted a conference in Pleasant Grove, Utah called Declutter Your Motherhood. When I was there, I was inspired to start living my dreams while being a mom. And one of those dreams morphed into KP Speaks. So, this gratitude story right here actually is because Rachel Nielson inspired me to go and get out there and speak and business dreams while still being a mom. So I know that this is quite personal for me, and it's like a dream come true to actually be introducing her to you and also interviewing Rachel Nelson. So Rachel, tell us a little bit about you and what you do and how it is you came to be a podcaster and leading women to be inspired and live their dreams.
Well, first of all, thank you for that really generous introduction. It always means so much to hear somebody say, I went to the workshop and as a direct result, I'm doing this. Like, how cool is that for me? So thank you for sharing that. So as Kristen said, I host a podcast. It's 3 takeaways in 30 minutes for moms. And I'm really passionate about helping moms find more hope in their motherhood through actionable tools that they can actually like put into practice in their homes that week, as well as just a sense that they matter and their unique gifts matter to their children and to the world. And I love doing it. I was a high school English teacher before my kids were born, and I love teaching. And then after my kids were born, I was really missing that part of myself, and I was missing using that gift for teaching. And so I started 3 in 30 as kind of an outlet to teach again. And so that's how I ended up. And now I do some live workshops too, where I get to teach, and it's just a joy. So that's my story.
I absolutely love that you went from teaching to teaching in a different way. And also you have a podcast university where you're guiding people now to have their own podcasts as well.
Yep, that's true.
And so Rachel has just really flown with it, and she has some amazing guests on her podcast. And every time I listen to a podcast, I go away with the ability to apply the takeaways, but also feeling like I'm not alone. And that's one of my main missions always I've felt in my life, is I'm supposed to help people feel like they're not alone. And Rachel does that for me. So I'm
Oh,
grateful for
thank
that.
you so much.
Yeah, well, one of the main reasons that I do this gratitude stories is to help spread the awareness of the importance of gratitude. And I was wondering what role gratitude has in your life, Rachel.
I love gratitude. Gratitude is it's my mindfulness practice. It's my therapy, my personal therapy when I'm feeling really low and down. When I come back to gratitude, it pulls me to a better, more positive place. I think gratitude is what's gotten me through some pretty big trials that I've had in my life. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 6, and she passed away when I was 19. And she just always emphasized gratitude to us. She gave us a gratitude journal every year for Christmas. And it's pretty remarkable that she could be grateful even with everything that she suffered for 13 years. And so I really think that's just like part of me now. And it's almost an instinct when I'm going through really hard things that I just automatically start thinking of the things I'm grateful for. And I'm really so grateful that my mom modeled that for me, because it's become part of who I am.
And for you personally, have you had instances where people have expressed gratitude to you and impacted your life?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing that just this week, I got a review on my podcast. And most of the time they're just pretty, I mean, everyone means so much to me, but they're pretty like vague. They just say like, I love your podcast and it brings me hope. But I got one this week that I read that was so specific and it meant so much to me. I was actually reading it and I looked up at my husband and I was like, whoa, because it was a mom who was going through chemo, which again connects back to my mom. And she said how grateful she was for my podcast because it gave her something to look forward to during her chemo treatment. So she saves the episodes and she listens while she's doing her chemo treatments, and that it makes it so that she like doesn't look forward to her chemo, but it's like a little treat during her chemo, and just that it's made a big difference. And that meant so much to me to hear that my words could be lifting someone who's in such a hard situation. And it makes me want to keep going with my work, which is sometimes really hard and exhausting, my work. But when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, okay, it's worth it because it's making a difference to that one woman who's getting her chemotherapy and listening to my show.
I think that's so beautiful because you're right, that one person, it matters and it makes a difference and it keeps her going. And I think that's what gratitude does for people when you express it. And, for you, it may be the difference where one day you're like, I can't do this anymore. And then you think about her and you're like, no, I'm going to do this because there's a woman that is getting a cancer treatment and she needs me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing that just somebody, you wouldn't have written that letter to you, you wouldn't have that experience, and it could be the one deciding factor of, do I keep doing this when I'm so stressed out and when I think maybe I'm not making that big of a difference? Thank you
Absolutely.
for sharing that. And for you personally, has someone ever expressed face-to-face to you an instance where it's impacted your life?
Yeah. So I thought last night when I thought about the questions you'd sent in advance,
Mhm.
because you'd asked specifically in the workplace, has
Yeah.
anybody done that? And so I thought back to my years as a teacher and thought about times that I had felt lifted by gratitude, and that gratitude had someone expressing gratitude to me had sort of propelled me to continue doing good works, like doing the things that I felt in my heart were right, but that were hard, which, so an example that came to mind was in one of my years of teaching, I was young, I didn't have any children, but I had a friend who was pregnant, and she had morning sickness and, well, all day nausea, sickness.
Mhm.
And she had lunch duty in the cafeteria. So we each got like assigned a different duty during one of our hours as teachers. And she had been assigned to the lunch cafeteria duty, and she was pregnant. And so she was
Oh.
telling me one day that how hard it was for her, and the smells in the cafeteria and all the food, and the teenagers are kind of sweaty and stinky, and just that it was really, really hard for her. And she didn't know that my duty was the same hour. And I realized, and I thought about it, and mine was library duty, where I got to sit and like grade papers. And when kids came into the library, I would just like check them in. So it was like a
Uh-huh.
really quiet, pleasant duty to have. And it was kind of the like, everybody wanted that duty. And somehow I had gotten lucky enough to do it. And she didn't know that I had that. But when she was telling me that story, I was like, in my heart, I was like, I should switch with her. Like,
Mhm.
this is the right thing to do. I should switch with her. But like, I had resistance, and I was like, I don't really want to. Like, I need every minute to grade. This is like the best duty ever. She'll never know. But like, I thought about it overnight or something, and I just thought, this is who I want to be. So I went to her the next day and I told her that I wanted to switch with her so that she could be sitting and not with all the smells and everything. And first of all, she was so grateful, of course, and like expressed her gratitude. But then what really impacted me was that like a few weeks later, I was after school grading and she was there, and I like ran into the hall. She was with her husband, and we were like chatting for a second, and her husband like stopped me and he like put his hand on my arm and he was like, I just want to say how thankful I am that you switched with Kristen, because that was a really difficult thing for her. And when she came home and told me that someone had done that for her, I was just so grateful that someone's looking out for my wife. And I was like kind of taken back and touched to be thanked by this husband that I didn't even know for something that I'd done that was hard to do, but I'd done it because it's who I wanted to be. And it made me want to continue to do things like that in the world. It like reinforced that he took the time to say thank you and to make me feel appreciated and loved.
Thank you for sharing that. Well, right now I want to thank you for something. I want to thank you for being you, number one, for reaching out and yourself out there. I recognized when you did your conference in Pleasant Grove that what you did was hard. You left your family, you sacrificed your time, and you really put yourself out there. And when you expressed your stories and lifted me personally, I was so inspired to live my dreams, and it's been difficult at times, to be honest, but it's been very empowering. And what's been the most amazing is that every time I live and continue on with this dream of mine, you're kind of in the back of my head saying, don't give up, keep going. You never know the difference you can make. And so I want to thank you for that, Rachel. I know I've thanked you in person. Every time I go to something, I know you're there. I'm like, let me go tell her thanks. But I really am thankful.
You're so kind. That really means the world to me.
Yeah.
It does.
So I'm grateful to have this opportunity to thank you via, you're in Idaho, so I can't really go there personally, but this is one way that, people can thank someone face to face as well. And my last question for you is, if you could have anybody in the world, in the universe, here right in front of you right now, who would it be? And if you could say something to thank them, what would you say to them?
Okay, well, I'm wondering if you can guess who it would be. I feel like it's such like a gimme who I would think, but I thought like I've tried to think of other people and there's no one. So I would thank my mom. And my mom's been gone now for 16 years. Mm-hmm. And so this is what I would say to her. I would say, Mom, I am so grateful for the way that you raised me and taught me to be grateful and to live with resilience. And I had no idea how good you were. I knew how good you were, but since becoming a mom and going through it myself, every day I think, I wish I could thank her. I wish I could call her and talk to her about my kids and thank her for how good she was and how well she loved me and what she modeled for me and the way that she fought that disease. So thank you, Mom, for just loving me so well and helping to create who I am.
Thank you. Well, I am so grateful for you being here today. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you or listen to your podcast, where do they go to?
My podcast is 3 in 30 Takeaways for Moms on any podcast app, and that's the actual number 3. And my website is 3in30podcast.com.
Okay, they can find you on Instagram. I know that. And great. Well, I just want to share with all of you guys that it's never too late to express gratitude, whether you're thinking, oh, I should have thanked that person a year ago for something that they did. It is never too late. So get out there and get sharing that gratitude. Thank you so much, Rachel, for being with me today for Gratitude Stories. Have a fabulous
Thank you for having me.
All right.